The champagne glass felt wrong in my hand. Too delicate, too expensive, too much like everything else in this glittering ballroom that didn't belong to someone like me. I stood near a marble column, trying to blend into the architecture, the way I'd learned to blend into shadows during my years waiting tables at restaurants I could never afford to eat in. The difference tonight was that I wasn't wearing an apron. I was wearing a borrowed dress and pretending to be someone I absolutely was not. His girlfriend, Pietro Gatti's girlfriend, and I'd met him exactly 4 hours ago. "Try to look like you're enjoying yourself," Pietro murmured. His hand settled at the small of my back, easy, familiar, sending a pulse of heat through the thin silk of my dress. The touch was casual enough to look natural to anyone watching, calculated enough that I felt every inch of it. "My aunt is staring," he added quietly. "She has a gift for detecting lies." I tipped my head up to look at him, this stranger who'd approached me outside a subway station with the strangest proposal of my life. Under the warm glow of the chandeliers, Pietro was even more overwhelming than he'd been beneath harsh fluorescent streetlights. Dark hair swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from the same marble as the columns around us, an impeccably tailored suit, emphasizing the breadth of his shoulders. Eyes so dark they read as black, until you were close enough to see the brown beneath, warm as whiskey, just as dangerous. "Then maybe you should have hired a better actress," I said softly, aware of the couples gliding past us on the dance floor. "I'm a part-time barista and a full-time art student. My training in high society deception is limited." Something flickered across his expression. Amusement, perhaps, or appreciation, that I hadn't dissolved into nervous babbling. "You're doing fine, Lorenza," he said. "Better than fine." The way he said my name, with that slight Italian emphasis, made it sound like it belonged to someone more confident than me, more dangerous. It sent an unexpected shiver up my spine. I'd told him my name when he made his offer. My age, 29, though I often felt decades older. My student loan debt, catastrophic. My bank balance, worse. He'd listened to my entire financial confession with the calm patience of a priest, and then offered me $10,000 to pretend to be his girlfriend for one night. One night, this gala, and then I'd never see him again. At least, that was the plan. It had sounded simple when he explained it. His family was pushing him toward an arranged marriage, a woman from another prominent family. He'd been deliberately vague about what made the families prominent, but the armed security stationed at every entrance had given me some uncomfortable ideas. If he arrived at his grandmother's 80th birthday celebration with a serious girlfriend on his arm, it would buy him time to handle the situation on his own terms. All I had to do was smile, stay close to him, and answer a few basic questions about our very fictional relationship. $10,000 for one night of pretending. Enough to cover 3 months of rent, next semester's tuition, the dental work I'd been postponing for a year. Enough to quiet the constant gnawing anxiety that had become the background noise of my life. So I'd said yes. Now standing in a ballroom that looked like it had been lifted straight out of a Venetian palace, surrounded by people wearing more jewelry than I'd see in my entire lifetime. I was starting to understand that nothing about Pietro Gatti was simple. "There's something you should know," he said quietly, guiding me away from the marble column, toward the edge of the dance floor. His hand never left my back. I was acutely aware of the heat of his palm, through the thin fabric of my dress. "My grandmother will want to meet you," he continued. "She'll ask questions." "That's fine," I said, keeping my voice steady. We discussed our cover story. I'd memorized it during the car ride here, in a sleek black vehicle with leather seats, and a driver who looked at me with the professional blankness of someone trained not to notice things. We'd met 6 months ago at an art gallery. He'd been drawn to my passion for Renaissance painting. I'd been charmed by his knowledge of Caravaggio. We'd been inseparable ever since. All lies, but convincing ones. "My grandmother," Pietro said, his voice dropping lower, "is not like other people. She sees things, understands things. If she suspects this isn't real..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Something in his tone tightened my stomach. This wasn't just about avoiding an arranged marriage. There were layers here, currents running beneath the surface of this elegant, glittering party. Dangerous ones. "Pietro!" A woman's voice cut through the music. Bright, sharp, unmistakable. "There you are, darling. We've all been dying. To meet your mysterious girlfriend. I turned. A woman in her mid-30s approached us, wearing a red dress that clung perfectly to her curves, diamonds blazing at her throat, beautiful in a way that required significant money and meticulous maintenance. Perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect teeth, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Gianna," Pietro said, and I heard the subtle tension in his voice. "How nice to see you." "Is it?" Gianna's gaze slid to me, assessing and dismissing in one swift motion. "So this is the girl who's captured the infamous Pietro Gotti's heart. How unexpected." The word lingered in the air between us, loaded, carrying undertones I couldn't quite decipher. Unexpected because I clearly didn't belong in this world? Or unexpected because everyone here knew Pietro Gotti didn't do relationships? "Lorenza," Pietro said smoothly. "This is Gianna Rossetti, an old family friend." The way he said old family friend suggested a history more complicated than friendship. I extended my hand, channeling every ounce of confidence I didn't feel. "It's lovely to meet you." Gianna's handshake was brief, her skin cool and dry. "You must tell me everything. How you met, what you see in our Pietro, all the delicious details. I'm sure everyone is absolutely fascinated." "Our Pietro." The possessive pronoun was deliberate. "Actually," a new voice interjected, this one male and carrying an undertone of authority that made several nearby conversations pause. "I believe my mother is looking for Pietro, something about the birthday toast." I looked up to see a man who could only be related to Pietro. The same dark eyes, the same sharp cheekbones, though this man was older, perhaps mid-50s, with silver threading through his dark hair. He wore his expensive suit with the ease of someone born to it, and when his gaze landed on me, I sensed the burden of serious scrutiny. "Uncle Marco," Pietro said, his hand tightening slightly at my back. "Of course, we were just heading that way." Marco Gotti's attention didn't waver from my face. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" "This is Lorenza," Pietro said. "Lorenza, my Uncle Marco. He helps run the family businesses." Something about the way he said businesses suggested I didn't want to know the details. "Charmed," Marco said, though his expression suggested he was anything but. "Pietro has been quite secretive about you. We didn't even know you existed until this week." Because I didn't, I thought, but kept my expression neutral. Pietro can be private about his personal life. I respect that. "Do you?" It wasn't a question. Marco studied me for another long moment, then shifted his attention to Pietro. "Your grandmother is waiting. Don't keep her long. You know how she gets." It felt like a warning. As Marco walked away, Gianna moved nearer, her perfume heavy and cloying. "Good luck with Nonna Rosa," she said sweetly. "She does so hate being deceived." Then she was gone too, leaving me alone with Pietro and the distinct feeling that I'd just been thrown into water far deeper than I'd realized. "Pietro," I said quietly, "what exactly is your family?" His jaw tightened. For a moment I didn't think he'd answer. Then he leaned down, his lips close to my ear, his breath warm against my skin. "The kind of family," he murmured, "where appearances matter more than you can imagine. Where the wrong impression has consequences. Where I need you to be absolutely convincing. For the next few hours, Lorenza, because if my grandmother suspects this is fake, if she thinks I'm playing games with family politics." He stopped himself, straightened. When he looked at me again, his expression had smoothed into something unreadable. "I need this to work," he said quietly. "Please." That word landed harder than any command. This man, who commanded rooms with his presence, who moved through this glittering crowd as if it belonged to him, who probably did own significant pieces of it, was asking, not demanding, not manipulating, asking. And I'd already taken his money. More than that. I'd given my word. "Okay," I said. "Then let's go meet your grandmother. And Pietro?" I lifted my chin slightly. "I'm a much better actress than you think." His smile was brief but real. It transformed his face, made my breath catch. "I'm counting on it." He guided me through the crowd. I felt the shift immediately, eyes tracking us, whispers rippling in our wake. This wasn't just a family gathering. This was news. Pietro Gatti had arrived, with an unknown woman on his arm, and the room was already rewriting its assumptions. We passed tables laden with foods I couldn't name, ice sculptures refracting light, floral arrangements taller than I was. Everything was excessive, beautiful, intimidating, a display of wealth so casual, it bordered on violent. And then we reached her, Nonna Rosa. She sat in an ornate chair that resembled a throne, positioned at the head of the ballroom, so she could survey her kingdom. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, even with the elaborate silver hair, piled high on her head. But the force of her presence filled the space around her. A black dress heavy with jet beads, a cameo at her throat, rings on every finger, flashing when she moved. Her face was a map of wrinkles, each line earned, and her eyes, the same dark eyes as Pietro's, missed nothing. Nonna, Pietro said, and there was no mistaking the affection in his voice. Happy birthday. He leaned down to kiss both her cheeks. She patted his face, hands marked by age spots and undeniable strength. Pietro, caro mio, she said, her English wrapped in a thick Italian accent. You finally decide to visit your old grandmother on her birthday. I am honored. You know I wouldn't miss it. Her smile was sharp. And this is why you bring a stranger to my party? To be certain I notice you? But her gaze had already moved to me. Sharp, assessing. And I knew this was the moment everything balanced on. This is Lorenza, Pietro said, drawing me forward. She's your girlfriend. Yes, I hear the whispers already. Everyone is talking about Pietro Gatti's mysterious woman. Nonna Rosa extended one hand toward me, not to shake but to hold. Come closer, child. Let me see what kind of girl captures my grandson's attention. I took her hand carefully, aware of how fragile the bones felt beneath the papery skin. But when she tightened her grip, there was nothing delicate about it. Lorenza, she repeated, turning my name over in her mouth like she was tasting it. An old name. Classic. Your family is Italian? My grandmother was, I said, from Naples. She came to America when she was 19. It was true. One of the few true things I'd tell tonight. My nonna had died when I was 12, but I still remembered her hands making pasta, her voice singing old songs in a language I only half understood. Something changed in Rosa's expression. Napoli, she said softly. A beautiful city. Dangerous but beautiful. Like many things in life, no? Her gaze sharpened. And you are an artist, I am told. An art student, I corrected. I'm working on my master's degree. Renaissance painting specifically. Ah, the Renaissance. When art and power were inseparable. When every painting told a story of who had money, who had influence, who would be remembered. She tilted her head, studying me. And what do you paint, Lorenza? The question felt like a test. I could feel Pietro's tension beside me, though he gave no outward sign of it. I don't paint, I admitted. I restore. Old paintings, damaged works. I try to bring back what was lost. Nonna Rosa's grip on my hand tightened. A restorer. Someone who sees beneath the surface. Who understands that beautiful things can be damaged but not destroyed. That with careful attention, with the right touch, what was broken can be made whole again. The metaphor was so obvious I almost flinched. But when I met her eyes, I saw something unexpected. Approval. Or perhaps curiosity. Tell me, she continued, how long have you been seeing my Pietro? 6 months, I said, keeping my voice controlled. We met at a gallery. I was there studying a Caravaggio restoration and he started talking to you about chiaroscuro and the contrast between light and shadow, yes? Nonna Rosa's lips curved. My Pietro. He always knows how to appeal to a woman's interests. Very smooth, my grandson. Pietro made a sound that might have been embarrassment. Nonna. Shh. I am talking to Lorenza now. She patted my hand. And in these 6 months he has been good to you? Respectful? Pietro can be intense. Sometimes he forgets that not everyone lives in his world. There was a warning in her words, though whether it was meant for Pietro I couldn't tell. He's been wonderful, I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. In the few hours I'd known him, Pietro had been nothing but courteous, protective, even. When we'd entered the ballroom and I'd frozen, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of wealth on display, he'd leaned down and whispered, "Just breathe. They're only people. Ridiculous people with too much money and not enough sense. But people." It had made me laugh, had steadied me. "Wonderful," Nonna Rosa repeated. "Such a big word. Be specific, child. What does wonderful mean?" This was definitely a test. I could feel the attention of others nearby, the way conversations had quieted so people could eavesdrop. "He listens," I said slowly, thinking through each word. "When I talk about my work, my research, the things I care about, he doesn't just hear me. He listens. He asks questions. He remembers details from conversations we had weeks ago. And I paused, letting my gaze drift to Pietro, who was watching me with an unreadable expression. "He makes me feel safe. Like whatever happens, he'll handle it. That's not a small thing for someone like me." It was all true. I was just describing the Pietro from the last 4 hours, not the Pietro of 6 months. But the words landed with the weight of honesty. Nonna Rosa's expression softened. "Safe," she murmured. "Yes, this is important. A man should make his woman feel safe, especially in a world that is not safe, especially in our world." She released my hand and turned to Pietro. "You will bring her to Sunday dinner. Next week. I want to know her better." Pietro's surprise was carefully controlled, but I saw it in the slight widening of his eyes. "Of course, Nonna. If Lorenza is free—" "She will be free," Nonna Rosa declared. "A woman makes time for her boyfriend's family. This is how it is." She fixed me with a look that was equal parts warmth and warning. "And, Lorenza, if my grandson does anything to hurt you, anything to make you feel less than treasured, you come to me. Understand? Family protects family." The implication was clear. She was already considering me family. I felt Pietro stiffen beside me. This had gone beyond the simple evening he'd planned. Way beyond. "Thank you," I managed. "That's very kind." "Kind. Pa!" Nonna Rosa waved her hand dismissively. "I am not kind. I am practical. Now go, both of you. Dance. Let people see you together. Pietro, you hold her close, yes? None of this modern dancing where you are miles apart. You hold your girlfriend like you mean it." It was clearly a dismissal. Pietro led me away, his hand firm at my back, and I could feel the tension radiating from him. "I'm sorry," he said quietly once we were out of earshot. "She wasn't supposed to. Sunday dinner is—" "A complication," I finished. "I know." We'd reached the dance floor. Couples swirled around us in a waltz that looked like it belonged to another century. I had never waltzed in my life. Pietro must have seen the panic on my face, because his hand slid from my back to my waist, his other hand closing around mine. "Follow my lead," he murmured. "Small steps. Just feel the rhythm." Then we were moving, and somehow my body understood what my mind didn't. His lead was steady, confident, his hand guiding me through turns I should have tripped over. The music swelled, violins and cellos wrapping around us. And for a moment, I forgot everything. The lie, the money sitting in my account, the fear, all of it faded, until there was only the way Pietro was looking at me. "You're good at this," I said quietly. "My grandmother insisted we all learn," he replied. "Every grandchild. The waltz, the tango, the foxtrot. She said if you could dance with someone, you could negotiate with them. Both require reading your partner, anticipating their movements, finding harmony in motion. Is that what we're doing?" I asked. "Negotiating?" Something shifted in his expression. A flash of vulnerability, before it disappeared. "I suppose we are," he said. "And I think I may have underestimated my opponent." "I'm not your opponent, Pietro." "No," he agreed softly. "You're not. But you should be. This world, my world, isn't safe for people like you. People who tell the truth. People who haven't learned to bury their hearts so deeply that no one can reach them." I wanted to ask what he meant. to understand the shadows behind his eyes. But the music ended. He stepped back, placing careful distance between us. "I need to make the rounds," he said, his voice slipping back into formality. "Greet relatives. Accept birthday wishes for my grandmother. I should come with you," I said firmly. "That's what girlfriends do. They don't hide in corners." While their boyfriends work the room, his smile was brief, but genuine. "Then stay close. And Lorenza, thank you for what you said to my grandmother. You didn't have to make it sound so real, but it had been real, I realized. At least in that moment, describing how he made me feel. Every word of it had been devastatingly true. The next 2 hours blurred together. Introductions, air kisses, carefully balanced conversations. Pietro's family was enormous. Sprawling, influential, unmistakably powerful. Cousins who ran construction firms and shipping lines. Aunts who chaired charitable foundations. Uncles who spoke in careful euphemisms about import-export operations. Everyone was polite, impeccably so. But beneath the civility was something sharper. Assessment. They were measuring me, weighing me, trying to decide whether I was worthy of Pietro Gotti, or whether I was something far more dangerous. A liability. As the night wore on, it became increasingly clear that Pietro's sudden appearance with a girlfriend had disrupted carefully laid plans. I caught fragments of whispered conversations, saw family members exchange loaded glances, watched calculations being rewritten in real time, and then there was Valentina. Tall, elegant, effortlessly wealthy. She observed us with barely concealed fury. When Pietro introduced us, she smiled, sharp enough to cut. "How sudden this all is," she said sweetly. "Pietro didn't mention you even last month, when we had dinner together. Some things happen quickly." "When they're meant to," Pietro replied smoothly. But the tension between them crackled like a live wire. This was the arranged marriage he was trying to avoid, and by arriving with me on his arm, he'd publicly rejected her. The weight of what I'd stepped into settled heavily on my shoulders. By the time Pietro guided me onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city, I was emotionally drained. Cool night air brushed my flushed skin. The music and chatter dulled behind the glass doors. "You need a break," Pietro said. Not a question. "I can see it in your face. Your family is intense. That's a diplomatic way of putting it." He leaned against the railing, city lights carving sharp lines along his profile. "You did well tonight, Lorenza," he added. "Better than I had any right to expect. Your grandmother wants me at Sunday dinner." "I know," he exhaled slowly. "We'll figure something out. I can say you went out of town, or I could go." He turned to me, surprise flickering across his face. "That wasn't part of our agreement." "No," I admitted. "But your grandmother was kind to me. And when this ends, when I disappear from your life, as suddenly as I appeared, that's going to hurt her." "She'll survive," he said automatically. "My grandmother is stronger than she looks. But you don't want to hurt her." I heard it in his voice, saw it in the tightening of his jaw. "That's what this is really about, isn't it?" I said softly. "Not just avoiding Valentina. You're buying time, trying to find a solution that doesn't break your grandmother's heart." Pietro was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "My grandmother lost her husband 10 years ago. My grandfather, he built everything. The family, the business, the power. When he died, she lost her purpose. For a while, I thought we'd lose her too." He swallowed. "Then she fixated on the next generation. Grandchildren getting married, having children, continuing the legacy. It gives her something to live for. And you're her favorite. I'm the oldest grandson, the one meant to step into my grandfather's shoes. She has plans for me." He laughed quietly, without humor. "Plans that include Valentina. She's from the right family, has the right connections, understands how this world works." He rubbed his face, exhaustion etched into every line. "Plans that don't include what I actually want." I met his eyes. "Which is freedom, choice, a life that's mine, not something inherited or arranged." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw past the careful control to the man underneath. Young, despite his power. Trapped, despite his wealth. "You probably think that's ungrateful. I have everything, and I'm complaining about—" "I think you're human," I interrupted. "And I think having money doesn't mean you don't get to want things for yourself." I hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, I don't think Valentina is right for you. You've known me for 4 hours, and I've been pretending to be your girlfriend for all of them. You'd be surprised what you learn about someone when you're trying to act like you love them. The word slipped out before I could stop it, and I felt my cheeks heat. I mean, when you're trying to act like you. I know what you meant. His gaze was intent on my face. What did you learn, Lorenza? That you're lonely. That you're carrying weight you never asked for. That's when you think no one's watching. You look at your family with love and frustration in equal measure. That you touch me like you're afraid I'll disappear if you hold too tight. That you're nothing like the dangerous man I thought you'd be. I couldn't say any of that. Instead, I said, I learned that you're a good dancer, and that you genuinely love your grandmother, and that you tip well. I saw you with the coat check girl. He smiled slightly. Not exactly deep psychological insights. Give me more than 4 hours. I'm sure I'll find your dark secrets eventually. It was meant to be a joke, but something flickered in his expression. I have plenty of those, more than you'd want to know. Before I could respond, the glass doors opened, and Uncle Marco stepped out. His gaze moved between us, assessing. Pietro, a moment. It wasn't a request. Pietro squeezed my hand briefly. I'll be right back. Stay here where it's quiet. Then he was gone, and I was alone on the balcony with the city lights and the weight of a lie that was starting to feel far too much like truth. I should have been relieved to have a moment to myself, to catch my breath and remember that this was all pretend. Instead, I felt strangely bereft, like I'd lost something I'd only just found. Through the glass, I could see Pietro and his uncle deep in conversation. Marco was speaking intently, his expression serious, and Pietro's body language was defensive, shoulders squared, jaw tight. An argument, or a warning. I turned away, giving them privacy, and found myself staring at the glittering city below. Somewhere down there was my tiny apartment with its peeling paint and unreliable heating. My cat is probably destroying the furniture in my absence. My easel had a half-finished restoration project that was already a week overdue. My real life, mundane and complex, is mine. This the ballroom, the gown, the handsome man who'd hired me to play pretend. This was fantasy. A single night that would end at midnight, like Cinderella's ball. Except Cinderella hadn't been paid. $10,000 for her trouble. So this is where Pietro's hiding, his little secret. I turned to see Gianna Rossetti stepping onto the balcony, a champagne flute balanced loosely in her hand. Her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Just getting some air, I said carefully. She glanced back through the glass doors. It can be overwhelming, can't it? All this wealth, all this power, for someone like you. She moved closer, heels clicking against stone. Tell me, Lorenza. It is Lorenza, yes? How exactly does a barista catch Pietro Gatti's attention? The words landed like a slap. She knew, or at least suspected. I'm not just a barista, I said evenly. I'm an art student. We met at a gallery. Yes, I've heard the story. She smiled thinly. Very romantic. Very convenient. She took a sip of champagne, never breaking eye contact. The thing is, I've known Pietro since we were children. Our families have been connected for generations, and he's never, not once, brought a woman to a family event. He keeps his personal life private. Obsessively so. So for him to suddenly appear with you, at his grandmother's birthday of all occasions, right when Valentina's family is pressing for an engagement announcement, she let the sentence trail off. You think I'm fake, I said. I think you're a distraction, Gianna replied calmly. A pretty nobody hired to play a role. And when you've served your purpose, you'll disappear, and Pietro will return to his real life. She stepped closer. I caught the faint scent of wine on her breath. The question is, what happens when you fall for him? Because they always do. All the girls who think they can handle Pietro Gatti, who think they understand what it means to be with a man like him, they fall. And then they get hurt. I appreciate the warning, I said, surprised by my own steadiness. But I'm not falling for anyone. I know exactly what this is. Do you? Her smile widened. That's adorable. You actually believe that? She tilted her head, studying me. Let me tell you what this is. You're a pawn. In a family power struggle you don't understand. You're here to embarrass Valentina. To buy Pietro time. To give him leverage in negotiations that have nothing to do with love or romance. And when it's over, when he's gotten what he needs, you'll be discarded. That's how men like Pietro operate. That's who they are. That's not who he is. The words escaped before I could stop them. Sharp, instinctive, certain. Gianna's eyebrows lifted. 4 hours, she said softly. You've known him for 4 hours? If the timeline you're claiming is even real, and you're already defending him, her smile turned almost gentle. Oh, sweetheart. You're already falling. Gianna. Pietro's voice cut through the night air like a blade. I don't recall inviting you to join us. He was standing in the doorway, and I couldn't read his expression. How much had he heard? Gianna turned to him, unfazed. I was just welcoming your girlfriend to the family, making sure she understands how things work in our world. Lorenza understands everything she needs to. He moved to my side, his hand finding mine, his thumb brushing against my knuckles in a gesture that felt protective. And she's not part of our world. She's part of my world. There's a difference. Something passed between them, a communication I couldn't decipher. Then Gianna smiled. A genuine smile this time, almost sad. I hope you know what you're doing, Pietro. I always do. That's what worries me. She left, taking her champagne and her warnings with her. Pietro and I stood in silence for a moment, his hand still holding mine. How much did you hear? He finally asked. Enough. She thinks I'm fake, thinks I'm going to fall for you and get hurt. And are you going to fall for me? I should have laughed it off. Should have reminded him this was business, that I was being paid, that I barely knew him. Instead, I found myself looking up at him, at this complicated man with his dangerous family and his careful control, and saying, Ask me again in the morning. Something blazed in his eyes, surprise, heat, something I couldn't name. His hand tightened on mine. For an instant, I thought he might kiss me. Actually kiss me. Not the careful press of lips to my cheek that he'd performed earlier for his family's benefit. Then a crash from inside the ballroom shattered the moment. Raised voices, the sound of glass breaking. Pietro's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The careful, civilized man disappeared, replaced by something harder, sharper. He stepped in front of me instinctively, his body a shield between me and whatever was happening inside. Stay here, he ordered, his voice brooking no argument. Then he was gone, moving through the glass doors with purpose. I should have stayed, should have listened. But something in the shouts coming from inside the ballroom sounded wrong, and I'd never been good at standing on the sidelines. I followed him inside. The elegant party had turned chaotic. People were backing away from the center of the ballroom, forming a circle around two men who were shouting at each other in rapid Italian. One of them was Marco. The other was younger, maybe mid-30s, with wild eyes and blood on his knuckles. You think you can just walk away? The younger man was screaming. You think you can betray the family and there won't be consequences? Marco's voice was cold. This isn't the place, Luca. You're drunk. Go home. I'm not drunk. I'm done. Done with the lies, done with the secrets, done with... He saw Pietro then, and something shifted in his expression. Something ugly. And here's the golden boy, Luca sneered. Perfect Pietro, who never makes mistakes, who never has to get his hands dirty, who gets everything while the rest of us... Outside, Pietro said quietly. Now. Or what? You'll make me disappear like you made... Pietro moved so fast I almost missed it. One moment he was standing still. The next, his hand was around Luca's throat, slamming him against the nearest wall. The violence of it was shocking, brutal, entirely at odds with the civilized man who'd been waltzing with me minutes earlier. You don't want to finish that sentence, Pietro said, his voice deadly quiet. The ballroom had gone entirely silent. Everyone was watching. And I realized with sudden, cold clarity that this wasn't just a family argument. This was something else. something dangerous. This was the world Pietro had been trying to protect me from seeing. Pietro. Nonna Rosa's voice cut through the tension. Let him go. For a moment, Pietro didn't move. Then, slowly, he released Luca, who slumped against the wall, gasping. Get him out of here, Pietro said to the security guards who'd appeared from nowhere. And make sure he sobers up somewhere far from my grandmother's party. As Luca was escorted out, still muttering threats, the crowd began to disperse. Conversations resumed. The musicians, after a moment's hesitation, started playing again. Within minutes, it was as if nothing had happened, as if violence hadn't just erupted in the middle of a birthday celebration. But I'd seen Pietro's face. I'd seen what he was capable of. He found me in the crowd, his expression carefully neutral, and walked over. Lorenza, who are you? The question came out before I could stop it. Really? He studied me for a long moment. Someone you should walk away from. Is that what you want? For me to leave? It's what you should want. That's not what I asked. The muscle in his jaw tightened. Then, instead of answering, he took my hand and led me through the ballroom, past the curious stares and whispered speculation, past his grandmother, who watched us with knowing eyes, past everything. We ended up in a quiet corridor lined with family portraits, generations of Gaddis staring down at us with severe expressions. Pietro stopped in front of one painting, his hand still holding mine. My grandfather, he said, nodding toward the portrait of a stern-looking man with the same dark eyes. He built everything, started with nothing and created an empire. Legal businesses mostly. Construction, shipping, real estate. But also, he paused. Also the kind of businesses that require men like Luca. Men who do things that need to be done. Things that keep the empire running. Things that never appear in the paperwork. You're talking about the Mafia. He didn't confirm or deny it. I'm talking about a family that has power because we understand how power works. Because we're willing to do what needs to be done to protect what's ours. Because we don't flinch when things get ugly. But you did flinch, I said softly. When your grandmother told you to stop, you let him go. Because she asked. Not because I wanted to. I thought about that. About the violence I'd seen. About the way he'd moved without hesitation. But also about the way he'd listened to his grandmother. The way he'd protected me all evening. The way he'd looked at his family with love despite everything. I should be terrified of you, I said. You should be. I'm not. His eyes met mine, searching. Why not? Because you hired a broke art student to pretend to be your girlfriend instead of just grabbing some random woman off the street and forcing her to play along. Because you negotiated. Because you said please. Because when your grandmother told you to stop, you stopped. I stepped closer. You're not what Gianna thinks you are. You're not heartless. You don't know what I've done, Lorenza. What I'm capable of. No, but I know what I've seen tonight. And I trust that more than I trust warnings from people who don't actually know you. He made a sound that was half laugh, half groan. You shouldn't trust me. You definitely shouldn't trust your instincts about me after 4 hours. 5 hours now, almost 6. Still not long enough to... I kissed him. I didn't plan it. Didn't think about it. Just rose up on my toes and pressed my lips to his, cutting off whatever protest he was about to make. For an instant, he went utterly still. Then his free hand came up to cup my face, and he was kissing me back. Not the careful, performative kiss he might have given me for his family's benefit, but something real. Something hungry and desperate, and tinged with what felt like relief. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. This wasn't supposed to happen, he said roughly. I know. This was supposed to be simple. One night. Then you'd disappear from my life. I know. Lorenza, Pietro, shut up. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I don't care what was supposed to happen. I don't care what your family is or what you've done or any of it. Right now, in this moment, I know exactly what I'm doing. Do you? I'm kissing a man I just met who makes me feel things I haven't felt in years. Maybe ever. And yes, that's terrifying. Yes, I'll probably regret it in the morning. But right now I don't care. He stared at me like I was something precious and dangerous all at once. Then he was kissing me again. Deeper this time. His hands in my hair. My back against the wall beneath his grandfather's disapproving portrait. This was insane. This was reckless. This was everything I'd sworn I wouldn't do. But I couldn't bring myself to stop. When we finally broke apart again, both of us flushed and breathless, I heard footsteps approaching. Pietro immediately stepped back, putting respectable distance between us, his expression smoothing into careful neutrality. Uncle Marco appeared around the corner, his eyes taking in our obviously disheveled state with one quick glance. The party's winding down. Your grandmother wants to say goodnight to you both. Of course, Pietro said, his voice composed even though his tie was askew and his hair was messed from my fingers. We'll be right there. Marco's look remained on me for a moment. She likes you, he said abruptly. My mother. She doesn't like most people Pietro brings around, but she likes you. I only met one other person Pietro brought around, I pointed out. Gianna implied. Gianna implies a lot of things. Pietro doesn't bring women to family events. You're the first. Marco's expression was unreadable. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. He left and I turned to Pietro. I'm the first? He wouldn't meet my eyes. I told you I keep my personal life private. So why me? Why bring a fake girlfriend instead of just showing up alone? Because showing up alone would have been seen as availability. An invitation for my grandmother and uncle to push harder on the Valentina arrangement. But showing up with someone, being serious enough about someone to bring her to a family event, that changes the calculation. It buys me time. Time for what? He finally looked at me. To figure out how to live my own life without destroying everything my grandfather built. To find a way to honor my family without sacrificing myself to them. I understood that. The impossible balance between duty and desire. Between what you owed the people who raised you and what you owed yourself. We should go say goodnight to your grandmother, I said softly. He nodded, but before we started walking, he caught my hand again. Lorenza? What happened just now? I know, it complicates things. It more than complicates things. It changes everything. Does it have to? His thumb caressed across my knuckles. I don't know. Ask me again in the morning. He was echoing my words from earlier, and despite everything, the danger, the lies, the impossible situation we'd created, I smiled. We found Nonna Rosa in the process of saying goodbye to the last guests. When she saw us approaching, her face lit up with a smile that made her look decades younger. There you are, she said warmly. I thought maybe you two ran away together. Very romantic, but very rude to your poor grandmother. We were just getting some air, Pietro said smoothly. And this air, it messes up hair and smudges lipstick. Her eyes twinkled with playful intent. Must be very vigorous air. I felt my cheeks heat, but Nonna Rosa just laughed. Don't be embarrassed, child. You think I don't remember being young, being in love? She reached out to pat my cheek. You are good for him. I see it already. He smiles when he looks at you. Really smiles, not the fake smile he gives everyone else. Nonna, Pietro protested, but she waved him off. I am 80 years old. I say what I want. She turned her attention back to me. You will come to Sunday dinner. No arguments. I want to know everything about you, your family, your work, your dreams. And I want to see if this one... She jabbed Pietro with one finger. Treats you the way he should. I promise he does, I said, and meant it. Whatever else was happening, Pietro had been nothing but respectful to me all evening. Good. Because if he doesn't, you tell me, and I will hit him with my wooden spoon. I may be old, but I can still discipline my grandchildren. Pietro groaned. She's not joking. She really will. Nonna Rosa kissed us both goodnight. made us promise again to come to dinner, then let us go. As we walked toward the coat check, I sensed the burden of the evening weigh on felt me. The lies we'd told, the truths we'd revealed, the kiss that had changed everything. Pietro helped me into my borrowed coat. I'd have to return it tomorrow, along with the dress, and we stepped out into the cool night air. His car was already waiting, the driver holding the door open. As we slid into the back seat, I expected Pietro to tell the driver to take me home, to end the evening the way we'd planned. Instead, he gave an address I didn't recognize. "Where are we going?" I asked. "My place, unless you'd rather I take you home?" I should have said yes, should have ended this before it went any further. Instead, I heard myself say, "Your place is fine." The drive took 20 minutes through streets that grew progressively more expensive. We didn't talk, but Pietro's hand found mine in the darkness, his fingers interlacing with mine in a gesture which was simultaneously intimate and comforting. Finally, we pulled up in front of a building all glass and steel, modern and elegant. The doorman greeted Pietro by name and didn't even blink at my presence. Either he was very well trained, or this wasn't the first time Pietro had brought someone home. I chose not to think about which. The elevator took us to the top floor, which consisted of a single apartment. When Pietro unlocked the door and ushered me inside, I caught my breath. The space was enormous, an open concept that flowed from the living room to the kitchen to the dining area, all decorated in shades of gray and black with modern furniture. But what caught my attention were the walls. They were covered in art, not prints or reproductions, but actual paintings. I recognized a Kandinsky, a small Modigliani, and what looked like an original Rothko. My art history classes had covered these pieces, their value, and their significance. "You have a Rothko," I said faintly, "just hanging in your living room." My grandfather collected art. Most of it went to museums after he died, but I kept a few pieces. Pietro was overseeing me. "Do you want something to drink? Wine? Water?" "Water, please." He disappeared into the kitchen and I drifted toward the paintings, studying each one. They weren't just expensive. They were chosen with care. Each piece spoke to the next, creating a narrative of color, emotion, and light. "You chose these," I said, when he returned with 2 glasses of water. "Not your grandfather. This collection, it tells a story." He looked surprised. "Most people just see the price tags." "I'm not most people. And this isn't about money. This is about..." I gestured to a series of 3 paintings hung together, their colors creating a progression from darkness to light. "This is about hope, about transformation, about finding beauty in chaos." Pietro was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "My grandfather collected art as investment, status symbols to display wealth. I collect it because..." He paused, searching for words. "Because when I look at these paintings, I remember that there's more to life than power and money and family obligations. I remember that beauty exists, that humans can create something meaningful, that we're more than just our worst moments." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest ache. This wasn't the dangerous man who'd slammed Luca against a wall. This was someone else. Someone real. "Thank you," I said softly. "For what?" "For showing me this. For letting me see who you really are." He set down his water glass and crossed to where I stood. "You're the first person I've ever brought here, to this apartment, to this collection. The first person I've trusted with this." "Why me?" "Because you see them the way they're meant to be seen. Because you understand. Because..." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Because from the moment I saw you outside that subway station, looking tired and worried and beautiful, I knew you were different. I knew you were someone I could trust. You hired me, Pietro. This isn't real. Isn't it?" His hand cupped my cheek. "Tonight was supposed to be a performance, a business transaction. But what I feel when I look at you, that's not fake. What happened when we kissed, that wasn't fake. And the way you defended me to Gianna. The way you looked at my grandmother like she actually mattered to you. The way you're standing here looking at my art collection like it's a window into my soul. None of that is fake. I wanted to argue. Wanted to remind him that we'd known each other less than a day, that this was moving too fast, that tomorrow everything would look different. But the words wouldn't come. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted instead. I came tonight for money, because I'm broke and scared and tired of barely surviving. I wasn't supposed to feel anything. Do you feel something? Yes, and it terrifies me. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. It terrifies me too. Then he was kissing me again, and I was kissing him back, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this was reckless, and probably stupid, and definitely complicated. But I couldn't bring myself to care. When he pulled back, both of us breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Stay, tonight. Just stay with me. Pietro! Not for anything except sleep. I just want you here. Want to wake up knowing you're real, that tonight happened, that I didn't imagine you. I should have said no. Should have called a cab and gone home to my tiny apartment and my everyday life. Instead, I nodded. He led me through the apartment to a bedroom that was simpler than I expected. A large bed, dark sheets, more art on the walls. He found me something to sleep in, one of his shirts that fell to my knees, and showed me the bathroom where I could wash my face and brush my teeth with the spare toothbrush he produced from nowhere. When I emerged, feeling strange and vulnerable in his shirt with my face scrubbed clean, Pietro was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in his dress pants, but with his shirt unbuttoned. He looked up when I entered, and something in his expression made my heart skip. "Come here," he said softly. I crossed to him, and he pulled me down to sit beside him on the bed. His hand found mine again, that gesture that was becoming familiar. "I need to tell you something," he said, "about the money, the $10,000. My stomach tightened. "What about it?" "I'm not taking it back. Whatever happens between us, however this ends, that money is yours. You earned it tonight. You were perfect. But if this is real, it doesn't matter. I made you a promise. I keep my promises." He squeezed my hand. "That said, I want to make you another offer." I waited, barely breathing. "Come to Sunday dinner. Meet my grandmother again. Let me take you to dinner this week, somewhere that's not a family event. Somewhere we can just be Lorenza and Pietro without the performance. Give us, a chance to see if this is real. And if it's not, if Sunday dinner is a disaster and by next week we realize we have nothing in common, then you walk away with your $10,000 and we both have a story to tell. But Lorenza..." His eyes met mine, serious and intense. "I don't think that's what's going to happen." "What do you think is going to happen?" He smiled slightly. "I think I'm going to fall in love with you. I think I'm already halfway there. And I think that by Sunday dinner, I'll be completely gone." The word should have scared me. It should have sent me running. Instead, I leaned forward and kissed him softly. "Okay," I whispered against his lips. "Sunday dinner, this week. Let's see what happens." He made a sound that might have been relief, joy, or both, and pulled me closer. We lay down together on top of the covers, still mostly clothed, wrapped in each other's arms. Pietro's hand stroking my hair, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Lorenza," he murmured into the darkness. Thank you for saying yes tonight, for giving me this chance, for being exactly who you are." I wanted to say something profound, something that matched the weight of the moment. Instead, I just held him tighter and let myself drift toward sleep, safe in the arms of a man I barely knew and shouldn't trust, but somehow did anyway. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, I was disoriented, confused by the expensive sheets and the art on the walls. Then memory flooded back. The gala, Pietro's family, the kiss in the hallway, everything. I sat up. Pietro's borrowed shirt tangled around my legs, and found him standing at the window with his phone in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair still messed from sleep, and he looked more relaxed than he had all night. When he saw I was awake, he smiled. "Good morning." "Morning." My voice was rough with sleep. "What time is it?" "Almost 10. I let you sleep. You looked exhausted." I was. The emotional roller coaster of the previous evening had drained me more than I'd realized. "Is that coffee?" "There's a cup for you in the kitchen, and breakfast if you're hungry." I wasn't sure what you liked, so I ordered a little of everything. He'd ordered breakfast for me. The small gesture of thoughtfulness made something in my chest squeeze tight. I found the kitchen and the promised coffee, perfect with just a touch of cream, which meant he'd been paying attention last night when I'd had coffee after dinner. There was also a spread of pastries, fruit, and what looked like eggs Benedict from some expensive brunch place. Pietro joined me, setting his phone down on the counter. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months, honestly. Your bed is incredibly comfortable. It's yours whenever you want it." The casual offer hung in the air between us. He wasn't joking. He meant it. "Pietro!" My phone rang, cutting off whatever I'd been about to say. I'd left it in my borrowed clutch, which was sitting on the counter where I'd abandoned it last night. I fished it out and saw my roommate's name flashing on the screen. "Sorry, I should take this. Sarah never calls unless it's important." "Of course, I'll give you privacy." But I waved him back as I answered. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to check if you survived your mysterious evening with the ridiculously hot guy. You said you'd text when you got home, and you didn't, so I was worried you'd been kidnapped or murdered or—" She paused. "Oh my God. You didn't come home, did you? You spent the night with him." "Sarah, I want details. All the details. Is he as gorgeous as he looked when he picked you up? Did you kiss? Did you—" "I'm putting you on speaker," I interrupted. "And yes, I'm fine. Everything is fine. Better than fine." I set the phone down on the counter, and Sarah's voice filled the kitchen. "Define better than fine, because I'm imagining all sorts of scandalous scenarios." Pietro was trying not to smile. I rolled my eyes at him. "His family had a party," I explained. "I went with him, met his grandmother. It was complicated." "Complicated how? Complicated like his family is weird, or complicated like you're catching feelings?" I looked at Pietro. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Both," I admitted. Sarah squealed. "I knew it. I knew when I saw him that this was going to be something. Lorenza, you never do things like this. You never take risks. This is amazing." "It's terrifying." "Same thing. So when do I get to meet him? Please tell me you're bringing him to game night next week. Everyone will die." "Sarah, we're not. We'd love to come to game night," Pietro said, speaking up for the first time. "If Lorenza wants to, of course." Sarah made a strangled sound. Was that him? Oh my God, he's there right now, isn't he? He's there, and he's hot, and he wants to meet your friends. Lorenza, you lucky bitch. "Sarah." But I was laughing. Please leave it to my roommate to reduce a complicated emotional situation to its most basic elements. Okay, I'm going. But seriously, I'm glad you're happy. You deserve happy. And whoever this guy is, he better treat you right or he'll answer to me." "Terrifying," Pietro murmured, but he was smiling. After I hung up, we stood in silence for a moment. Then Pietro said, "Game night? It's this thing my roommate organizes. Every few weeks, a bunch of us get together at our apartment, play board games, drink cheap wine, eat cheaper pizza. It's silly." "It sounds nice, normal." "That's because it is normal. Not fancy parties with armed security and family drama. Just regular people having fun." "I'd like to meet your regular people if you want me to." Did I? Bringing Pietro into my real life, introducing him to Sarah and my other friends. That made this real in a way that last night hadn't. Last night could have been a fantasy, a beautiful aberration. But game night was my world, and inviting him into it meant something. "Okay," I said. "But fair warning, Sarah will interrogate you. She'll ask about your intentions, your job, your credit score, probably your zodiac sign. She's protective. Good. You should have people who protect you. The simple statement made my chest constrict. When had anyone ever said something like that to me? When had anyone cared enough to be protective? My phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it and felt my stomach drop. It was from my ex-boyfriend, Marcus. We'd broken up 6 months ago after I caught him cheating, and I'd thought we were done. But apparently, he'd heard through mutual friends that I'd been at some fancy party last night, and now he wanted to know who I'd gone with. Heard you were at the Gaddy party last night. Seriously? How did you even get an invite? Did you crash it? I stared at the message, experiencing the recognizable cocktail of anger and hurt that Marcus constantly stirred up, a familiar feeling. Even now, months after the breakup, he couldn't just leave me alone. What's wrong? Pietro asked, reading my expression. Nothing. Just my ex being his usual charming self. Ex-boyfriend? Ex-mistake. We dated for 2 years. He cheated. I left. End of story. Pietro's jaw tightened. Does he bother you often? Define often. He texts every few weeks, usually to criticize my life choices or remind me of everything I'm failing at. I should block him, but I keep thinking he'll eventually get bored and move on. Block him. Pietro's voice was flat, brooking no argument. Now, while I'm watching. Pietro! Lorenza, I'm serious. Men like that. Men who can't let go, who need to tear you down to feel better about themselves. They don't stop unless you force them to stop. Block his number. Block him on social media. Cut him out completely. There was something in his tone that suggested personal experience with this kind of situation. I wondered what Pietro had seen, what he'd dealt with in his dangerous world, that made him so sure. But he was right. I'd been weak about Marcus, letting him linger at the edges of my life out of some misguided sense that I owed him. What? Politeness? Access? The chance to make me feel bad about myself? I blocked his number. Then I went through my social media and blocked him there too. It took less than 5 minutes, and when I was done, I felt relieved. Thank you, I said. For what? For reminding me that I don't have to put up with people who make me feel small. Pietro crossed to where I stood and tilted my chin up with one finger. You're not small, Lorenza. You're extraordinary, and anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve space in your life. Then he kissed me, soft and sweet, and I let myself melt into it. When we broke apart, I said, I should probably go home. I have work this afternoon and I need to return this dress. Keep the dress. Pietro, I can't. It was purchased for you. It's yours. Keep it. He hesitated. When can I see you again? Sunday dinner with your grandmother? Before that, tomorrow. Let me take you to dinner. Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk without my entire family watching. I wanted to say yes immediately, but caution made me pause. Pietro, we need to talk about what this is. Last night was real, but it started as a lie. You paid me to pretend to be your girlfriend. And now I'm asking you to actually be my girlfriend. For real. No pretending, no money, just us. His expression was serious. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But Lorenza, I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Maybe ever. I want to explore this. I want to see where it goes. What about your family? The arrangement with Valentina? Your grandmother's expectations? I'll handle my family. That's my problem, not yours. The only question that matters right now is, do you want this? Do you want to see where this goes? I thought about all the reasons I should say no. The danger, the complications, the fact that we came from entirely different worlds, the very real possibility that this would end badly, and I'd be left heartbroken. But I also thought about how he made me feel safe, how he listened when I talked, how he'd shown me his art collection like he was showing me his soul, how he'd defended me to Gianna and his family without hesitation, how he'd looked at me this morning like I was precious. Yes, I said. I want to see where this goes." His smile was brilliant. "Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up. I'll text you my address." He pulled me close for another kiss, this one deeper, hungrier. When we broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. "I should let you go before I convince you to stay all day," he murmured against my hair. "Would that be so terrible?" "No, but you have work, and I have meetings, and we should probably try to maintain some semblance of normal life even as we're doing this completely insane thing." He was right, but it took significant willpower to step away from him, gather my things, put on my borrowed coat, and prepare to leave. Pietro insisted on having his driver take me home. As we rode the elevator down, his hand found mine again, and I realized this was becoming our thing. Holding hands, that simple connection that felt more intimate than it should. The car was waiting outside. Before I got in, Pietro pulled me aside, away from the driver's curious eyes. "About the money," he said quietly. "It's already been transferred to your account. You should see it when you check." "Pietro, that's too much. Last night was exactly what we agreed to. You honored your part of the bargain. I'm honoring mine." He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "This changes nothing about us. What happens next isn't about money. It's about you and me." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Be safe," he said softly. "Text me when you get home. And Lorenza, I meant what I said. I'm falling for you. Fast and hard and completely." "Me too," I whispered. One more kiss, quick and sweet, and then I was in the car and pulling away, watching Pietro stand on the sidewalk watching me go. I checked my bank account on the drive home. The money was there, just as he'd promised. $10,000 that would change my life, solve my immediate problems, give me breathing room I hadn't had in years. But more than the money, I had Pietro's number in my phone. A date tomorrow night, Sunday dinner with his grandmother, the possibility of something real with someone extraordinary. When I got home, Sarah was waiting, practically vibrating with curiosity. I told her everything, or at least an edited version of everything, about the gala, the family, the kiss, the morning after. I left out the part about being paid, about the arrangement that had started this. That was between Pietro and me. "This is insane," Sarah said when I finished. "You realize this is insane, right? Meeting someone and falling for them in less than 24 hours? "I know, but you're doing it anyway." "I'm doing it anyway." She studied me for a long moment, then smiled. "Good. You deserve something crazy and wonderful. Just be careful, okay? Guys who seem too good to be true usually are." But Pietro wasn't too good to be true. He was complicated and dangerous, and burdened by a family that demanded more than anyone should have to give. He was honest, flawed, human. And he was mine. Or becoming mine. Or we were becoming each other's. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I went to work at the coffee shop, poured lattes, smiled at customers, and counted down the hours until tomorrow night. My phone buzzed periodically with texts from Pietro. Nothing profound, just small check-ins. "How's work? What are you doing later? I can't stop thinking about you." Each message made me smile like an idiot. That night, alone in my room, I tried on the dress Pietro had insisted I keep. In the mirror, I looked like someone else. Someone confident, elegant, and worthy of a man like Pietro Gotti. I could become that person. Maybe I already was. My phone rang just as I was getting ready for bed. Pietro's name on the screen. "Hi," I said, unable to keep the smile out of my voice. "Hi." He sounded tired. "I hope I'm not calling too late. I wanted to hear your voice before I went to sleep." "How were your meetings?" "Long, tedious, full of family politics I'm trying to navigate without losing my mind." He paused. "My uncle asked about you. Wanted to know if you were real or a convenient fiction." "What did you tell him?" "That you're real, very real, and that he should mind his own business." I laughed. I'm sure that went over well. About as well as expected. "But Lorenza, I need you to know something. My family is going to dig into your background. They're going to want to know everything about you, verify your story, make sure you're not a threat. The words should have scared me, should have made me reconsider this entire thing. Instead, I felt oddly calm. Let them dig. I have nothing to hide. I'm exactly who I said I am, a broke art student trying to make ends meet. The most scandalous thing in my past is the time I accidentally stole a library book in 3rd grade. You stole a library book? I thought I'd returned it. Found it under my bed 2 years later and had a complete meltdown. My mom had to drive me to the library so I could confess and pay the late fee. Pietro's laugh was warm and genuine. You're adorable. I'm mortified. The librarian probably still remembers me as that crying kid who showed up with a book that was 730 days overdue. That's the most innocent criminal past I've ever heard. What's yours like, your criminal past? The silence stretched just a beat too long. Complicated, and not something we should discuss over the phone. Right, because he was part of a family with actual criminal connections. Because his life wasn't coffee shop shifts and overdue library books. Pietro! Tomorrow night, he said firmly. Tomorrow I'll tell you everything. The real story of my family, my role in it, all of it. You deserve to know what you're getting into. And then, if you want to run, I'll understand. I'm not going to run. You might. Some of it is ugly, Lorenza. Parts of my life aren't something I'm proud of. Then we'll deal with it together. But Pietro, I'm not running. I heard him exhale, like he'd been holding his breath. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Wear something comfortable. We're not going anywhere fancy. Where are we going? You'll see. Trust me? I trust you. After we hung up, I lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened in the last day. 24 hours ago, I'd been standing outside a subway station, tired and worried and barely scraping by. Now I had money in my account, a date with an incredible man, and the terrifying, exhilarating feeling that my life was about to change completely. I fell asleep with a smile on my face and Pietro's voice floating in my mind. The next day crawled by agonizingly slowly. I had classes in the morning, art history and restoration techniques, where I should have been focused, but instead found myself lost in thoughts about dark eyes and strong hands, and the way Pietro looked at me as if I were art worth studying. By the time 7 o'clock rolled around, I was a bundle of nerves and anticipation. I'd followed his instruction to dress comfortably. Jeans, a soft sweater, ankle boots. My nicest jeans, my softest sweater, but still casual. When the knock came at my door, Sarah practically shoved me toward it. Go, have fun, don't come home too early. I opened the door to find Pietro standing there in jeans and a leather jacket, looking unfairly gorgeous, and somehow more real than he had in his expensive suit. This was Pietro without the armor of family events and social obligation. Just Pietro. Hi, he said, his smile warm and genuine. Hi yourself. He took my hand as we walked to his car, not the sleek black vehicle with the driver, but a sports car he drove himself. Something fast and expensive, but also intimate. Just the two of us in a small space. So where are we going? I asked as he navigated through traffic. Do you like Italian food? Real Italian food? Not the Americanized version? I love it. Good, because I'm taking you to my favorite place in the city. It's a tiny restaurant in Little Italy, barely seats 20 people, family-owned for 3 generations. The grandmother cooks, the parents serve, the grandkids wash dishes. Best pasta you'll ever have. Sounds perfect. It was. The restaurant was exactly as he'd described. Small, intimate, with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles, and the smell of garlic and tomatoes filling the air. The owner recognized Pietro immediately and greeted him with kisses on both cheeks and a stream of rapid Italian. Pietro, she exclaimed. Too long since you visit. And who is this beautiful girl? Lorenza. This is Signora Benedetti. She makes the best carbonara in the city, possibly the country, possibly the world. Signora Benedetti beamed. You flatter me. But yes, my carbonara is very good. Come, I have the best table for you. She seated us in a corner, private but with a view of the entire restaurant. Within minutes, food started arriving, plates of pasta, fresh bread, wine that tasted like sunshine. And through it all, Pietro and I talked. Really talked. He told me about growing up in his family, about the pressure, the expectations, and the constant awareness that he was being groomed for something. About his grandfather, who'd built an empire but also created a cage. About loving his family fiercely while also resenting what they represented. About the moment he realized he'd inherited not just wealth, but responsibility. The kind of responsibility that sometimes required impossible choices. I told him about my own family. My parents who'd divorced when I was 8. My mother who'd worked 3 jobs to keep me in art classes. My father who'd disappeared into a new life and new family. About choosing art restoration, because I loved the idea of bringing damaged things back to life. About the constant struggle to pay bills, to stay in school, and to believe that eventually things would get better. "You're stronger than you think," Pietro said, his hand covering mine on the table. "Surviving what you've survived, pursuing your dreams despite everything working against you. That takes courage." "It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like stubbornness." "Sometimes they're the same thing." I smiled. "What about you? What do you dream about? If you could have anything, be anyone, what would you choose?" He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I'd choose freedom. The ability to make my own decisions without weighing every choice against family politics and business consequences. I'd choose a life where loving someone wasn't a calculation, where bringing a woman to meet my grandmother didn't require strategy and planning." "But you do love your family." "I do. That's the problem. If I didn't care about them, if I could just walk away, everything would be simpler. But I can't abandon them, can't let down my grandmother, can't ignore my responsibilities, can't pretend that everything my grandfather built doesn't matter." "So you're trapped." Trapped is a strong word. Obligated might be better. But yes, sometimes it feels like a cage. He met my eyes. "Until I met you. You make me feel like there might be a way to honor my family without sacrificing myself. Like maybe I can have both." "I'm just one person, Pietro. I can't solve your family problems." "You don't have to solve anything. Just being yourself, being honest and real and unimpressed by all the trappings of my world, that changes everything. You see me, Lorenza. Not Pietro Gotti, heir to the family empire. Just me. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" I understood because I felt the same way. He saw past the struggle, past the poverty, past the fear that I wasn't enough. He saw the person I was trying to become. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "About your family business." His expression shuddered slightly, but he nodded. "Ask. Is it illegal, the business your grandfather built?" He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was careful. "Parts of it exist in gray areas. My grandfather came from nothing and built something extraordinary, but not all of his methods were legal. Over the years, we've legitimized most of the operations. Construction, shipping, real estate, all of that is completely above board now. But there are still pieces, connections, relationships that date back to the old days. Pieces that can't be easily untangled without consequences." "And Luca? The man from the party who attacked your uncle?" "Luca handles the pieces we're trying to phase out. He's loyal to the old ways, resistant to change. And he's angry because he sees the family moving away from what made us powerful in the first place." Pietro's jaw tightened. "What he doesn't understand is that the world has changed. We change with it, or we get destroyed. That's why you want out, why you're resisting the arranged marriage, because you want to transform the family business into something completely legitimate." I smiled. "What about you? What do you dream about? If you could have anything, be anyone, what would you choose?" He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I'd choose freedom. The ability to make my own decisions without weighing every choice against family politics and business consequences. I'd choose a life where loving someone wasn't a calculation, where bringing a woman to meet my grandmother didn't require strategy and planning. But you do love your family. I do. That's the problem. If I didn't care about them, if I could just walk away, everything would be simpler. But I can't abandon them. Can't let down my grandmother. Can't ignore my responsibilities. Can't pretend that everything my grandfather built doesn't matter. So you're trapped. Trapped is a strong word. Obligated might be better. But yes, sometimes it feels like a cage. He met my eyes. Until I met you. You make me feel like there might be a way to honor my family without sacrificing myself. Like, maybe I can have both. I'm just one person, Pietro. I can't solve your family problems. You don't have to solve anything. Just being yourself. Being honest and real, and unimpressed by all the trappings of my world. That changes everything. You see me, Lorenza. Not Pietro Gotti, heir to the family empire. Just me. Do you have any idea how rare that is? I understood, because I felt the same way. He saw past the struggle, past the poverty, past the fear that I wasn't enough. He saw the person I was trying to become. Can I ask you something? I said. About your family business. His expression shuddered slightly, but he nodded. Ask. Is it illegal, the business your grandfather built? He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was careful. Parts of it exist in gray areas. My grandfather came from nothing and built something extraordinary, but not all of his methods were legal. Over the years, we've legitimized most of the operations. Construction, shipping, real estate, all of that is completely above board now. But there are still pieces, connections, relationships that date back to the old days. Pieces that can't be easily untangled without consequences. And Luca, the man from the party who attacked your uncle? Luca handles the pieces we're trying to phase out. He's loyal to the old ways, resistant to change, and he's angry because he sees the family moving away from what made us powerful in the first place. Pietro's jaw tightened. What he doesn't understand is that the world has changed. We change with it or we get destroyed. That's why you want out. Why you're resisting the arranged marriage. Because you want to transform the family business into something completely legitimate. Yes, but it's not easy. There are alliances, obligations, debts owed and owed to us. Walking away isn't simple. I thought about that. About the weight he carried. The impossible balance he was trying to strike. Your grandmother knows, doesn't she? About what you're trying to do. He looked surprised. How did you... The way she looked at you. The way she talked about finding someone who makes you feel safe. She knows you're trying to build a different kind of life, and she approves. Pietro's expression softened. My grandmother is smarter than anyone gives her credit for. She knows exactly what my grandfather's empire cost. In lives, in relationships, in pieces of our souls. She wants better for me. For all of us. Then she's going to love that you're dating a broke art student with no family connections. His smile was genuine. She already does. You should have heard her after you left. She called me and talked for 20 minutes about what a lovely girl you are, how you have a good heart, how you look at me with real affection. She's already planning our wedding. I choked on my wine. What? I'm kidding, mostly. She did mention that you'd make beautiful babies, which was mortifying. Oh my God. Welcome to my family. Subtlety is not our strong suit. Despite my embarrassment, I laughed. It was absurd, overwhelming, and somehow perfect. We finished dinner, and Pietro drove me home, parking outside my building, but not letting me get out of the car right away. Tomorrow is Sunday, he said. Dinner with my grandmother. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you trying to give me an out? I'm trying to give you a choice. Once you attend a second family event, once you sit at her Sunday dinner table, she's going to consider you part of the family. There's no going back from that. I reached over and took his hand. Then I guess I'm part of the family. His kiss was soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "I'm falling in love with you," he whispered. "I know it's too soon. I know I shouldn't say it, but it's true." My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. "Then we're both in trouble, because I'm falling in love with you too." His smile was brilliant, boyish, and completely genuine. "Best trouble I've ever been in." We said goodnight with the promise of tomorrow, of Sunday dinner, of whatever unfolded next. I floated up the stairs to my apartment, my lips still tingling from his kiss, my heart so full it might burst. Sarah took one look at my face and said, "You're done for." Completely. "Good. It's about time something wonderful happened to you." That night, curled up in bed, I thought about Pietro's grandmother and her insistence that I attend Sunday dinner. Thought about the way Pietro looked at me like I was precious. Thought about the impossible, wonderful, terrifying thing that was happening between us. By morning, he had already bought me a ring. Well, not literally. But when I woke up to a text from him, it felt just as permanent, just as life-changing. "Good morning, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about you. See you tonight for dinner with Nonna. Fair warning, she's already asking when she can start planning our engagement party. I told her to give us at least a week. Show?" I stared at the message, my heart doing complicated things in my chest. An engagement party. He was joking, obviously. Mostly joking. Probably joking. But the idea didn't scare me the way it should have, because somewhere between his proposal outside the subway station and this moment, between pretending to be his girlfriend and actually becoming it, I'd found something I didn't know I was looking for. I'd found home. And it turned out home wasn't a place. It was a person with dark eyes and careful hands and a heart so well protected that when he finally let you in, you knew it meant something. It meant everything. "Can't wait," I texted back. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself. That's all she wants. All I want. Just you. Precisely as you are." So that's what I'd give him. Myself. Precisely as I was. And maybe, just maybe, we'd build something extraordinary together. Something that honored his past while creating a different kind of future. One where love was a choice, not an obligation. Where family was something you built, not just something you were born into. Where a man could ask a stranger to pretend to be his girlfriend for one night, and by morning, know she was real in every way that mattered. That's precisely what happened to us. Pietro asked me to pretend, and by morning, we'd both stopped pretending entirely.